Welcome to a journey through history. Today we explore the roots of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Our tale begins in the aftermath of World War II, when the world witnessed the birth of a new nation, Israel, in 1948. A significant event that forever changed the landscape of the Middle East. This creation, while seen as a sanctuary for many, was also the catalyst for the displacement of countless Palestinians, a moment that continues to reverberate through the decades. As the years rolled on, the tension between Israelis and Palestinians intensified, laying the groundwork for a new player to rise on the stage, Hamas. Emerging in the late 1980s, Hamas became a prominent force in Palestinian politics, adding another layer of complexity to the ongoing conflict. From this point onwards, the Israel-Hamas conflict would take on a new dimension, one that would not only shape the region, but also impact the wider geopolitical landscape, creating ripples across the globe. Now that we understand the origins, let us delve deeper into the timeline of events. Emerging from the shadows of the First Intifada, Hamas was born. In the turbulent year of 1987, amidst a climate of escalating tensions, a new entity came to life, forever altering the political landscape of the Middle East. This entity was Hamas, an acronym for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, or the Islamic Resistance Movement. The creation of Hamas was not an isolated event. It was a response to a multitude of factors, a manifestation of the frustration and anger brewing within the Palestinian society. The First Intifada, a grassroots uprising against Israeli occupation, was a significant catalyst. The people were demanding change, and Hamas positioned itself as the vehicle for that change. Hamas's motives were clear. It sought to establish a sovereign Islamic state in the area that is now Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. The group's charter, released in 1988, was explicit about its goals and its refusal to recognize the State of Israel. But Hamas was not just another political entity, it was an organization with a dual identity. On one hand, it was a social welfare organization, providing essential services to the Palestinian people. On the other, it was a militant group committed to armed resistance against Israeli occupation. As the First Intifada raged on, Hamas's influence grew. It was able to leverage the widespread discontent and channel it into support for its cause. By the time the Intifada ended in the early 90s, Hamas had evolved from a fledgling organization into a major political and military entity. The rise of Hamas had significant implications. It not only transformed the Palestinian political landscape, but also set the stage for a new phase in the Israel-Palestine conflict. With Hamas now a formidable force, the stage was set for a long-drawn conflict. The year 2000 marked the beginning of a new era of conflict, the Second Intifada. This tumultuous period was a turning point in the hostilities between Israel and Hamas. Sparked by the failure of the Camp David summit, the Second Intifada, also known as the Al-Aqsa Intifada, was a wave of heightened violence that lasted for 5 long years, from September 2000 to February 2005. A new, chilling tactic emerged during this period: suicide bombings. Carried out by individuals willing to sacrifice their lives, these acts of terror targeted civilians, causing widespread fear and loss. The bombings were largely orchestrated by Hamas, who saw them as a desperate but necessary measure in their struggle against Israel. Israel, in turn, responded with a heavy hand. They launched military operations in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, targeting Hamas leaders and infrastructure. The Israeli government also initiated the construction of the West Bank barrier, a controversial move that was met with international criticism. Despite these measures, the violence continued unabated, with both sides suffering significant casualties. The international community watched in concern, urging both parties to return to the negotiating table. However, the deep-seated animosity and mistrust between Israel and Hamas, coupled with the intense pain and trauma caused by the ongoing violence, made any form of dialogue increasingly difficult. The aftermath of the Second Intifada was a landscape marked by destruction, loss, and a hardened resolve on both sides. The conflict had escalated, and any hopes of a peaceful resolution seemed to be slipping further away. This period was not only a significant chapter in the history of the Israel-Hamas conflict, but also a turning point that would shape the dynamics of their relationship for years to come. The Second Intifada set a precedent for the coming years of conflict. This was a time of intense struggle and upheaval, a time when the stakes were high, and the cost of conflict was measured not only in political terms, but in human lives. As we delve deeper into this complex history, we must remember the lessons of the Second Intifada and consider how they continue to impact the present day. In 2008, the world witnessed the first of 3 Gaza wars. This was a turning point in the history of Israeli-Palestinian relations, marking a new chapter of conflict that would last for years to come. The First Gaza War, also known as Operation Cast Lead, kicked off in late December 2008. Sparked by the expiration of a 6-month ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, this 22-day conflict saw a scale of violence that the region had not experienced in years. The reasons behind this war were complex, rooted in a long history of political tension, territorial disputes, and mutual antagonism. Fast forward to November 2012, the world would witness the Second Gaza War, named Operation Pillar of Defense. This 8-day war was primarily a battle of airstrikes and rocket attacks, with the Israeli government aiming to cripple Hamas's long-range missile capabilities. The conflict was marked by a significant increase in the use of technology, with both sides employing new strategies and tools in their arsenal. The third and most recent Gaza war in 2014, known as Operation Protective Edge, was the deadliest of the 3. Lasting for 7 weeks, the conflict resulted in a significant loss of life and property, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. This war was triggered by the abduction and murder of 3 Israeli teenagers, a tragedy that led to a spiral of violence. These 3 wars, each with its unique characteristics and consequences, had a profound impact on Israeli-Palestinian relations. They brought about a new level of hostility, distrust, and resentment, making the prospect of a peaceful resolution seem increasingly distant. The repercussions of these wars were felt not just in the immediate aftermath, but continue to shape the dynamics of the region to this day. The Gaza wars further deepened the divide, setting the stage for future conflicts. The conflict continues to this day, with no resolution in sight. As the 21st century unfolds, the tension between Israel and Hamas has not subsided, but rather intensified. Recent years have seen an escalation in violence, with both sides locked in a seemingly unending cycle of attack and retaliation. The situation in Gaza remains precarious. The constant state of conflict has led to a humanitarian crisis, with the region's infrastructure struggling to meet the needs of its population. Access to basic necessities such as clean water, food, and healthcare is severely limited, leading to widespread suffering and discontent. In Israel, the fear of rocket attacks from Gaza is a daily reality. The Iron Dome missile defense system may intercept many of the rockets, but the psychological toll on the population is immense. The continued threat of violence affects every aspect of life, from education to the economy. The international community watches this situation with a mixture of concern and frustration. Numerous attempts at peace talks have been made, but none have resulted in a lasting solution. The complexity of the issue, rooted in decades of historical, political, and religious tensions, makes it a challenging puzzle to solve. Countries around the world have taken sides, with some supporting Israel's right to defend itself, and others condemning the treatment of the Palestinian people in Gaza. This division further complicates the conflict, adding another layer of diplomatic tension to an already volatile situation. The United Nations, along with various human rights organizations, continues to call for an end to the violence and a sustainable resolution to the conflict. However, their pleas often fall on deaf ears, as both Israel and Hamas remain entrenched in their positions. As we move further into the 21st century, the hope for a peaceful resolution seems to dwindle. The conflict between Israel and Hamas has become a symbol of the global struggle for peace and justice. For now, the Israel-Hamas conflict remains one of the world's most complex and enduring disputes. The Israel-Hamas conflict is a potent reminder of the complexities of geopolitics. We have journeyed through the rise of Hamas, traced the path of the first major conflict, delved into the heart of the Gaza wars, and taken a snapshot of the current situation. This intricate tapestry of events paints a picture of a conflict that is far from black and white. The protagonists in this story are not just political entities, but also ordinary individuals caught in the crossfire. The narrative is punctuated by moments of hope, resilience, and human spirit, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Yet the story is far from over. The stakes are high, the tensions palpable, and the future uncertain. In the grand scheme of things, the Israel-Hamas conflict is but a small chapter in the larger narrative of human history. Yet it is a chapter that holds valuable lessons about the power of dialogue, the importance of mutual respect, and the enduring quest for peace. As we continue to watch this conflict unfold, it is essential to remember the human cost and strive for a peaceful resolution.